Welcome to the Salty Life Podcast.
We are your hosts, Paul and Sav, entrepreneurs, parents, business owners, and yes, Christians.
Getting salty has a few different meanings in our culture, some good and some not so good.
We are here to help you add some of that good saltiness to your life by giving advice based off of our own experiences
and mistakes,
and providing you with some practical solutions to navigating this crazy world.
Let's get salty.
All right, welcome back to the Salty Life Podcast with Paul and Sav. This is your host, Paul, with Sav. So today we're going to be talking about a topic called love and respect. So this is going to be kind of a marriage topic today.
It's going to be fun. Hold on tight.
Yeah. So there is a book by that name, which I kind of where this comes from. And, we like to talk about how we made all the mistakes you can possibly make starting out in our marriage. And this book did kind of help us along the way. So
it did. And it's still helping us today, even though we recognize how it helps. And we're like, remember this? Like, this is what's happening right now. So,
yeah. And I would say for me anyway, like way more than the love languages, because Savannah loves to ask me what my love language is throughout the years over and over again. And that just never really resonated with me. But the love and respect thing really did, as a man at least, resonate with me. And I think it did with you too as a woman.
It did. Yeah, because I think that one of the biggest things I've told you over the years is like, I don't feel loved. Like I don't feel like you love me enough or you're showing me love, which in return made me react in a very disrespectful way for a really long time. So anyways, if this sounds like anything that you're relating to, then hold on, because we have a lot of topics within this to discuss today.
Yeah. Do you want me to just kind of summarize the whole love and respect idea?
Sure.
For
go
marriage?
For it.
Okay. I'll try to.
I'll stop you if you get anything wrong.
Okay. That sounds about right. So the whole idea, and again, this resonated with me as a man, is that, women want to feel loved and men just want to feel respected. And so for a man, being respected is way more important than being loved or really anything else. Like that's the ultimate for a man. If they don't feel respected in their own house, then things are not going to go very well. And then I'll let you speak for women, but kind of the same thing with love, correct?
Well, absolutely. Like women naturally love unconditionally. So we're going to love you no matter what. Like you can say horrible things, you can screw up, you can hurt us, and we're still going to love you to a certain extent, right? There's a level where that gets unhealthy, but that's not what we're discussing today. But women are going to love you just like we unconditionally love our children and our parents and our brothers and sisters and anybody that we choose to love. It's unconditional. So we expect you to love us unconditionally, and men were not designed to know how to do that. So you don't even know how to appreciate that unconditional love. So I think that oftentimes women, when they don't feel loved, they can tend to get passive aggressive or act out kind of like children. And I mean, I'm a great example of this. I acted out like a child a lot because like, if you're not going to give me positive attention, then I'm going to seek negative attention because I just want your attention because I want to know that I'm important, right? So in the beginning of our marriage, that caused a lot of problems, but it was a cycle that we were both on because he was constantly feeling disrespected because I had the attitude of, you want to be respected, give me something to respect you for. And if you're not showing me love as your wife and I'm not feeling loved, then I'm not going to be the one to step up and show you respect first because you're the leader of this household. So you have to do it first. So we were going through this cycle, not even recognizing what it was for years and years. And I think that a lot of...
Can I say something?
Yeah.
But how can a man be the head of the household if he's not respected?
No, I completely 100% agree.
Which leads to the crazy cycle.
It does. So the crazy cycle is the woman feels unloved. So she in turn is disrespectful. The husband feels disrespected, so he in turn does not show the love. And it's like you're both punishing each other because you're both trying to win. And in marriage, if one of you loses, you both lose because you're on the same team. And it took us a really long time to figure that out. And so we're hoping that maybe our mistakes can help others figure it out sooner and get out of that cycle. And because now we still have moments where we both are like, whoa, okay, hold on. Like, I mean, I'll catch myself now being like, I'm sorry, that sounded very disrespectful. I didn't mean it that way. And if you would have asked me 10 years ago, or even when I was a teenager, I never could have imagined that I ever would have said that to any man, especially not my husband. So I've come a long way, and he's come a long way too. So
I would say we still get on the crazy cycle, but we don't stay on for days or weeks at a time now.
Yeah, we used to stay on the crazy cycle for days and weeks at a time, and now we stay on the crazy cycle for maybe a couple of hours, and then we recognize it, and we get out of it. Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. Like, it's rare that we get there and stay there for a long period of time. So why don't you tell us kind of like what your expectation of marriage was going to be and your wife respecting you? Because we didn't talk about that before we got married.
No, we didn't. And we didn't talk about that before this podcast either. So.
No, we didn't. I did. That was not exactly one of the topics. But I think that like our childhoods and things influence that. So...
Yeah, so what was my expectation of marriage and being respected?
And a wife being submissive and respectful, because I think being a respectful wife also falls under being the submissive wife. And I never thought I would say I was a submissive wife either, and I fought that for a long time. But I feel like... Are
you a submissive wife now?
For the most part.
Well, I mean, I would say my ideas of marriage growing up are very different than my idea of marrying you, because when I married you, I knew that you were not submissive at all.
You still fought me on that though, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, so growing up, I mean, you know, my dad was very much in charge. And so, I mean, I was raised kind of, I guess you would say old school, like you respect your elders, you respect your father, you respect your grandfather. You do not question authority whatsoever. And I'm not saying I have authority over you. Well, maybe I do.
You do, technically.
Technically, but that's just the way I was raised. So then I marry a rebellious, young lady, and that was just
rebellious. That's the word you're choosing.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, and definitely not submissive. But like I said, I kind of knew that going into it. So. I don't know. I guess when you're at that age, you just kind of think it's all going to work out. It's all going to be fine. This isn't going to be hard. How hard could it be? So that was my attitude going into our marriage anyway. But I don't think I expected it to be like what I witnessed growing up, though. If that makes sense. So what about you? What was your idea of respect growing up?
Well, I was raised with the same thought process of you respect your elders. So I remember my uncles always like, I'm your elder, or I'm older than you. You have to respect me. And so I just did whenever I was younger. Now, my mom, my mom is the furthest from a submissive. She's not disrespectful, but she's not going to show you respect unless she wants to, right? And my mom, I watched her I don't even know what the word is, but the respect that she had for my grandpa, and I always had that same respect for my grandpa. But when it came to like other men, the older I got, I kind of grew this attitude, maybe it was a rebellious attitude of you don't deserve respect, so why should I show you respect? Now, that doesn't mean that I was disrespectful in the way that I spoke to people unless I was upset with them, but I didn't give that, I don't even know what the word is. Like, I didn't have that like revered respect for anybody except for my grandfather. And I just didn't. And so I always kind of had an attitude as a young adult and was like, you got to earn your respect, and I always felt like I was trying so hard to earn people's respect that I felt like it should be the same across the board. So if you didn't give me a reason to respect you, then I wasn't going to go out of my way to show respect. Does that make sense? Kind of.
So you feel like that carried over to our marriage then?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I didn't deserve respect, at least in the beginning.
Well, there were some instances. Actually, I thought of one. Talk about making me feel unloved. I did not tell you I was going to bring this up. So okay. Probably the biggest one that stands out for me is I always wanted to feel protected by my husband. And to me, like, not that I need you to protect me. I mean, I've always been pretty much like I could protect myself and I could stand up for myself. But there were instances early on in our relationship and our marriage where I just expected, now that we were married, that you were going to stand up for me and, you know, go to bat for me no matter what. And we were at a wedding and you had a friend from high school that was very kind of hurtful towards me, and you didn't stand up and kind of like take my side, which you should. That was an instance where I was actually not wrong until the very end, where my mouth got away from me, which it used to do a lot. So I totally understand your perspective. And we were young. I think you were like 27 and I was 22. We had only been married for like a year. And I remember like coming home and I just felt so betrayed and so unloved because you didn't stand up. You kind of just let it happen and not stand up for me. You didn't like take my side. And that was probably the biggest, like after that, I had a really hard time having respect for you early on. Now I know that you would stand up for me no matter what. Like even if I was wrong, you would jump in and then we would deal with it later.
Can I say something as well?
Absolutely.
So now you probably wouldn't have put yourself in a situation that you'd be in a shouting match with someone at a wedding.
I mean, the amount of alcohol that was consumed that weekend would never happen again. Like that's just not who I am anymore. So there's a lot of things that I think early on in our marriage, there's a lot of things that affected a lot of our problems and probably affected the love and respect thing. But that one was a big one for me. Like I didn't feel loved in that instance. But at the same time, you're like, well, it's your fault because you shouldn't have said that. So looking back, I totally get that. But that was one of those things that like really in the beginning, I had a hard time with.
Yeah. And I would say I had no idea what it meant to be married at that point. And
yeah,
you know, I think we were talking earlier, you know, for a guy to be married, to have a successful marriage, you basically have to love your wife as much as you love yourself, or more than you love yourself, which is really, really hard for a man to put someone above them or something above themselves. And so I just wasn't looking at it that way. I wasn't mature enough to realize what was happening in that moment to step up.
Yeah. But now I know that wouldn't happen. For multiple reasons. It
wouldn't happen on me. I say both.
No, but now reasons. Let's say it wasn't the same kind of situation, but somebody was being really disrespectful or very like somebody said something to me, especially another man that was uncalled for, or there was a heated moment. I know that you would step in.
You have to hold me back.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I expected then. I was like, how come he's not like in a fist fight because of this? You know,
I'd never been in a fist fight before.
No, I know. I just, at that time, that's what my expectation in the moment and thinking about it after the moment was. And then it was like, whoa, like if he's not going to stand up for me and protect me, I thought that that's what a husband was supposed to do. I thought that that's what he was going to do. So that was one of the things in the very beginning that I think I struggled with a lot. And I know that you struggled with my mouth.
Yeah.
And my words.
Bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we used to say that, what did I say? Your words are like daggers.
Yeah.
Stabbing me in the back.
Or the front.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I expected that like once a conversation was over, that like, oh, I was just mad at you. That's why I said that. And you're like, your words don't go away, Savannah. Like I still feel.
You still cut me deep.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you used to
later.
say, that my words cut like so deep and they just stayed there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, I mean, we had a lot of challenges in the beginning because of this problem. And it took a really long time for us to get to a place where we communicate and understand this a lot better now, which back then we didn't even know that this was a thing. We didn't recognize it. He used to tell me that I didn't respect him, and I'd be like, well, do something so that I respect you. And I didn't even realize that that was super disrespectful too.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting here as a man thinking, okay, I go to work every day. You know, I provide a decent living. We're able to buy a house. I'm faithful to my wife.
You are.
So I'm thinking, how am I not how am I not deserving respect at this point with with what I'm doing? And so,
I'm not saying that you didn't. It's just for me, not feeling loved
No, I understand.
The respect thing was just like, well, no, you're not showing me that you love me. So I'm not going to do what you want me to do. I'm not going to bow down to you. That's what would go through my head. I don't think I've ever actually vocalized that so well, but that was my thing, is like, I'm not going to bow down to you when you're not showing me that you love me, because I love you unconditionally. I would do anything for you. And you have to show me that you would do anything for me too. So the tangible things like you going to work and things like that didn't register as love to me.
Yeah.
Sounds crazy, right?
Well, I mean, it makes more sense now.
Yeah.
That we're on the other side of it.
So what were some of the bigger challenges, do you think, in the beginning, like from your side of me being disrespectful to you? Like some things that stood out?
Like things that happened, or just things I struggle with in general?
Either and both.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, when your wife is showing that she doesn't respect you, it's just, it's hard to function. It's hard to come home. So I think I stayed away from home a lot. And I was, we had no kids. I was playing golf a lot at the time. So it was very, very easy for me to just find stuff to do and reasons to not be home. But, I mean, and this is another thing about as far as the way men go, like we want respect, right? So we're taught to show respect. And, one thing that stuck out for me from the book is like when you're a man, whether it's right or not, to show respect to their wife, whenever things aren't going well at home, they withdraw because, a man is usually physically superior to his wife. And if you got into a confrontation or a shouting match, the man is stronger. And so to avoid that, to show respect to your wife, a man withdraws. But then a woman sees that as the man doesn't love her even more.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of me just staying away and withdrawing to avoid the big, confrontation, the yelling match. We never had any physical altercations except for one bag of cheese that got thrown at some point. But yeah, so that was what I remember a lot of, is just withdrawing to avoid being disrespectful to my wife, because I had nothing respectful to say, but at the same time, you could care less about me being respectful.
No, I just wanted a hug and a kiss and for you to tell me it was all going to be all right and that you loved me and, we were going to get through it.
Which is impossible to do whenever your wife has no respect for you.
Which I see now. But so y'all can see where we're going with this crazy cycle. Yeah. Like this was like an everyday,
it can go
like
on
constant,
and on and
constant
on and on.
like thing. And it could be like the dumbest things that would set this into motion. But it was constant for years. We struggled with this. And another thing was, so when we were first married, we were both working. We didn't have any kids. I still wanted to go do things with him. Or if there was family functions, we moved from California to here the year that we got married. And so I expected that every family function he was going to go with me. And he's just like, I don't want to go to that. Why would I want to go to a kid's birthday party? And I'm like, you're not supposed to want to. You're just supposed to do it because you love me and we're married now. And so we had some of those challenges where he wouldn't go to the birthday party with me. He would choose to go play golf or something instead. And so then I would be super disrespectful and passive aggressive and make little comments because I was mad at him because it made me not feel loved that he wouldn't go to these events and things with me. Even though in hindsight, it's like, I didn't really want to go to these things either. I just didn't want to have to go by myself. It's just what you do. It's the Southern thing. You go to all the things.
Well, yeah, but you came from a huge family with lots of kids' birthday parties, and I came from a small family. So I'd never been to a kid's birthday party since I was a kid. So it just didn't even register that that's something that you did when you don't have kids.
Yeah.
And now that we have kids, we go to a kid's birthday party every single weekend.
Yeah, so, it's just what you do. It's
so I'm making up for it now.
You are making up for it now. And now he goes to all the things.
What are we doing on Saturday?
We have a kid's birthday party on Saturday.
Okay.
Skating rink. It's going to be fun.
Okay. Yeah.
So what were some of the instances that you remember in the beginning that were just blatantly disrespectful?
I mean, there's a few. Back before we had kids, when I was a golf coach, my first golf coaching job was about an hour away. So I was picking the kids up at the school at 6 a.m., which means I had to leave the house at 4 a.m.
Not our kids, his golf kids.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the golfers.
This is before we had children.
The golfers, yeah. So I'd have to leave the house like 4:30 to get to the bus barn, to get the bus, to get to the school, to pick up the kids, to get to the golf tournament. So, being a golf coach was a great job because you get to miss about 50 days of school a year that are paid. But on the flip side, you have to leave very, very early in the morning. So if Savannah was upset with me or not feeling loved, which was very, very often, then, I'm getting to bed by 10 because I got to get up at 4. And she would just make sure that all the lights were on and the TV was blaring. And she would just say, it's not my problem. I don't have to get up. You deal with that.
I see that was very immature now, but I did get a reaction.
You definitely would get a reaction. Even if it was a
screaming match, I got a reaction. Or you just ignored me for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, until the next golf tournament, and then you would do it again. So we were getting no sleep before we had kids. Self-inflicted. I
do recall now, I think that you turned the electricity off to the house once because you knew that I would unlock the door because I was scared of the dark. I have not thought about that in years. Yeah. But he flipped all the breaker boxes. So these are the crazy things that we did.
Well, okay, so a woman you usually want to talk about the problem, right? So you, for whatever reason that night, you didn't, and you locked yourself in the bedroom. And yes, knowing that you're terrified of the dark, I just went and flipped off the master breaker.
And that
door came open in about 2 seconds. So, yep.
I put a flashlight in my nightstand after that.
Just in case I ever wanted to do that again.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that. Man, that's funny.
Good times.
Yeah, great times. So what are some changes that you've made, would you say, to try to show me unconditional love so that I don't get super disrespectful?
So the thing is what I'm going to say, it's so simple. It's very simple, but it's very difficult for a man at the same time. Let's put it that way. But, like trying to again, love you as much as I love myself or more, I've actually stopped to listen and actually try to hear what you're saying. So, and I think you had said this for years. I don't know. Again, I was able just to push it off or say that what I'm doing is more important, but like you feel loved when I help around the house. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I was terrible for years at helping around the house. And so I figured out that just like doing the dishes on a somewhat, not even every time, but a somewhat regular basis makes you feel loved.
Yeah. The look on my face says it all, right?
Yeah. So it's just, making you a priority. And again, I'm going to give you credit. You're super laid back now. So just making you feel loved sometimes, like doing the right thing sometimes is enough, for us to stay off the crazy train, the crazy cycle.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
One thing for me, and I don't even know that you really noticed it until recently, was so by nature, I am a yeller. Like I said earlier, like if I don't get my way or if I'm not feeling loved, or in the past, if I wasn't, that I was going to get some attention one way or another, whether it was good or bad, whether it was a fight or a hug, like it was something, right? So for me, learning to just be quiet if I don't have anything that like, so when I'm going to say something to you and I might not be feeling loved and I might be feeling like neglected. Neglected is probably the best word because I think that that's when women are feeling unloved. When they're feeling neglected emotionally, that's when things start to really go off the rails.
Like
unimportant, neglected. Yeah, all those things.
Okay.
So for me, if I'm starting to feel that way, I get very, very careful with what comes out of my mouth. Because I know that in those moments, and you've been really busy at work lately, so I've had to be very careful because you haven't had as much time to show me love or help around the house or whatever. You've been gone. I'm very grateful that we're blessed and that you're busy at work. And with your job, it's very up and down. Like you might have more time sometimes and less time other times. So I have to be very cautious about how I'm feeling and like really like get some perspective on it. But I have to be really careful with what's coming out of my mouth when I'm having those feelings. And so for me, I've gotten really good, much better. I try to, especially if I'm upset about something, I try to spend some time praying about it and then just focusing on being quiet. Because to me, if I'm silent, I can't be disrespectful. because you've never said that my actions were disrespectful. You've only ever said what came out of my mouth by my tone or the way I said it or the words that I chose were disrespectful. So I've learned that like my body language is not going to be disrespectful unless there's words attached to it. And so for me, I have to pray and be quiet until I can come to you in a respectful manner and say, my feelings are hurt because of X, Y, and Z. I'm feeling unloved because of this. I really need some time or attention, or I need you to be more present in these instances. And that's just like, that's something that it's really hard for me. It's probably the hardest thing that I do is be quiet, because by nature, I'm not a quiet person. By nature, everything that comes to my mind, right out of my mouth.
Can I say something?
What?
So when you do that, and we were talking about this earlier, is that when you come to your husband respectfully, that creates the space, for the husband to come back and engage with you, instead of the disrespect where you shove them away and then they disengage because they don't want to be disrespectful back to you.
Well, you're saying creating the space, like usually, and I don't even know if you notice this, normally I don't even come to you. I just get really quiet, whether it's a couple hours or a whole day or whatever. And eventually you just come to me. Like, because
that's what I'm saying, though.
Being quiet and giving you that space, and I'm not being passive aggressive or making little comments or like, those little jabs here and there, because that's not there. It's like the field is open for you to come to me and you initiate us talking about it in a loving way and getting through it.
We're saying the same thing then. So that gives me the space, because you're not giving me the jabs, shoving me away.
Yeah.
And then I feel the screaming match coming on, so I disengage, so I don't do that.
But it's like a learned behavior. After the first couple of times that I tried this and I was successful, I was like, ooh, this works. And then I'd fall off the wagon and make a comment here or there and then you'd be like, that was disrespectful. And I'm like, have you not noticed all the respectful things I've done or not done? Like all the things that I've chosen not to say? And you're like, no. I'm like, man, I've been doing so good for 6 months, or I've been doing so good for like the past couple of weeks or whatever. And so it's almost like every time I would like screw up and go back to my old ways, or like not do a good job of being quiet or keeping my mouth in check or choosing my words carefully, I felt like I was starting all the way over. And I think that you feel that way too.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I start thinking that I'm doing things to help, which, it probably isn't enough. Especially in your opinion, it's not enough. So then I feel like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I staying up late to do the dishes? Because then I just get hit with a dose of disrespectfulness, and you start to question that. But I think what we've learned, and I think kind of point of the book too, is like you have to be the one. It doesn't even matter if it's the man or the woman, I think, or you might have a different opinion, but it doesn't matter who starts it. But like the man either has to start showing love, even if he's not getting the respect, and the respect will come, or the woman has to start showing the respect, even if it's not deserved. And that will give the man the opportunity and the space to feel like they can show the love.
Well, I'd also say too, I think that, so we listened to this book. We knew about the book probably 10 or 15 years ago. I've always had people in my life that were older than me were like, oh, y'all should read this, or you should look at this or whatever. And, I might have read like the first chapter and I was like, this is saying that I need to do everything. This is crap. I'm not doing this. I wasn't mature enough the first time that I looked at the book to listen to it.
Well, the first half of the book is brutal from the woman's perspective.
And so if you go listen to this book, and I do recommend every married couple listen to the whole thing, like both of you listen to the whole thing. And the first half for men, they're going to be like, this is awesome. Everything that my wife does wrong, it's telling her she needs to do this and this and this. And then you get halfway through the book and it switches to everything hard. The husband has to do. But I think that that's because women are more willing to try something than
probably.
Men. I think that we're more willing. And if you're reading that book or listening to that book, you're kind of in a desperate situation where you're like, I can't take this anymore. Like something's got to change. So I actually listened to the entire book. I want to say it was before we had Wyatt. And I started trying to implement some of the tools in it. And it was a couple weeks into it that I was like really trying to be respectful, no matter what. I was trying to do it. And he came to me and asked me what I was doing. which this is a common theme in our marriage. Well, I'll just get like a wild hair and do something. And he's like, what are you doing? Like after a couple of days, he's like, I know you're doing something new. What are you doing? And so I told him, and he agreed to listen to the book. And it was really good for us to recognize, because it was like, wow, it's like this guy wrote this book for us specifically. And then the more you talk to other married couples, you realize it's just how it is. And I think that one of the ways that God kind of gets us to be more like Jesus is puts us with somebody that's completely different than us. And then we have to work on our character building, right? It builds character for me to learn to be respectful, and it builds Paul's character for him to learn to show me unconditional love, even when we're not deserving of those things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would also add that we started implementing these things long before either of us really had a good, like, strong daily relationship with God, where we were doing quiet time and reading our Bibles and those things. But as we've both grown spiritually, it's been a lot easier for us to be mature enough to have the conversations and to recognize the love and respect and be accepting of the terms and how that works. Right?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
It's just gotten easier.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like you said, most people are going to read a book like that out of desperation to start with. So, I think our marriage had improved by the time Wyatt came along and you read that book, but
No, it had improved, but we would still fall into those patterns.
yeah, well, you still fall into the crazy cycle. You start wondering, is it worth it? Like, what am I doing? I've invested 10 years with this person, and how are we back here again?
Yeah. We used to be like, oh, we've been going through this, having the same problem over and over and over. Like, when do you get to the point where you don't have the same problem anymore and you just get it, But even now, like, we'll have little disagreements or little moments where one of us is having a bad day, or perhaps I didn't get enough sleep last night. And, my mouth might run away from me. But now, and I think that you would recognize now, it's like, oh, whoa, like, I recognize the tone and how I said that, and I did not mean it that way. I'm sorry that sounded disrespectful.
And I will say too, whenever I do start to get a whiff of the disrespect coming my way, it has gotten easier for me to stop and think, well, what did I do, or have I not shown her that I love her? And so, we've talked about, we kind of got on the crazy cycle a little bit earlier this summer when I got super, super busy with work. Where I was working 7 days a week again. And, so we were on that for a little bit, but then I started thinking, like, okay, what do I have to do if I am going to be gone nights and weekends working? I'm going to have to do something to make sure she feels love. So I don't know if you've noticed, but I've started to send text messages.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I remembered that you would say you were gone all day and all night and you didn't text me or call me one time. You must not love me very much.
I mean, I said that like in the beginning of our marriage, but it's still...
Yeah, it only took 15 years for it to sink in, but it finally sunk in. So now I know if I just send a quick text once or twice throughout the day just to check in and say I love you, that diffuses a lot of...
It does.
The disrespect when I come home.
Well, and also, like, I know how hard it is for him to just send a quick text, because he is such a tunnel vision person when he's working, that means that he probably put a reminder in his phone to send me a text sometime during the day or to check in with me.
I don't have to do that anymore.
Oh, you don't?
It's becoming a habit.
Oh, well, that's sweet. But well, actually, you know what? I would recognize that, because now if I don't get one, I'm kind of like, I wonder what happened. I haven't heard from him. What's going on? And I'm not one to reach out to him during the day. So I cannot say that that's something that I do, because I'm busy when I'm at work and I'm with clients. I'm fully engaged with my clients.
But I don't need to feel loved throughout the day. So I don't need loving text messages from you throughout the day. No,
but those loving text messages, you get more respect.
Yeah, I just need to be respected when I walk in the door at night. And so sending, that's what I'm saying, sending you the loving text messages pays dividends. You sending them to me would do nothing at all.
No, me texting him in the middle of the day, like, hey babe, I miss you, I love you, I hope you're having a good day. Like, that doesn't mean anything to him. He's like, why is she dinging me? Like, that's just another text message I have to open and respond to, So it's a totally different need and want. And I think that that's part of just learning to put somebody else first too, is recognizing what their needs are and making sure that you make it a point, whether you think they're important or not, like the needs, or that they're silly. For instance, one of the big things that helped this kind of make sense in my brain, which the first time he told me this, I did not take it well. But I remember he said, when you're going to say, I love you, just imagine saying, I respect you instead. That's what a man wants to hear. We do not want to hear, I love you. We want to hear that I respect you. And I was like, that's absolutely stupid. And if you need to do that, then when I say I love you, you just need to flip it in your brain and hear, I respect you. And he's like, you're not listening. And I wasn't, because I thought it was dumb. But the longer that we're together and the more that I understand, even just biblically, as I study the Bible, like respecting your husband and how important that is, and the way that marriage was set up from God, I see that that really is your love, is respect. Like, men really don't care about being loved. It's not important to them. And I see that so much in our boys, because especially with Brooks, he's getting older now. And there's also like a book called like Respecting Your Sons or something like that. I can't remember the exact words. I'll put it in the comments somewhere. But it talks about the love and respect for your sons as a mom and showing them how to be respected. And so whenever I tell him I'm proud of him, or I respect a decision he made, or that he made a really good choice with his brother, or he was a good example for Wyatt or something like that, like the words proud and respect to my 9-year-old, like I see him light up like he used to light up when he was a toddler, and I'd say, I love you, And so it's interesting to see how that dynamic is kind of rooted inside a man, even at a young age. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and one thing I was thinking about when you were talking is that I think the problem is, at least for me, and maybe other men out there too, is like, I didn't realize that's what I needed, kind of until I read that book, that I couldn't put a finger on what wasn't working for me in our marriage. But yeah, it's rooted in a man to be that deep need to be respected more than anything. I mean, the world can be falling around you, but as long as your peers respect you, then you're going to feel okay by yourself, whether that's right or not.
Do you think that that's why a lot of men end up getting so involved in work and staying away from home?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if things aren't going well at home, but I'm very successful, then it's so easy just to throw yourself into your work. And I think we all know people that are hyper successful that become workaholics, and but then the flip side of that is they make all of this money, and then they get to the point where they have to retire or quit or whatever, and they've got all the money in the world, all the time in the world, but they spent all of that time and money, and they have no family left to show for it, because and then you feel pretty hollow and empty, I would say.
Yeah. So how would you say that you're teaching the boys how to be a loving husband and to love their future wives unconditionally? How would you say that you're putting that in them? Because I really work on like showing them, trying to talk to them in a respectful manner. Obviously, it's harder with little boys and little kids to do that. But especially whenever I'm talking to them like one-on-one about things, I try to use language that shows them that I respect, that I not only love them, but I respect them and things like that. And that I'm proud of them, because I know that those affirming words are so important to boys. How are you doing that as a dad?
I would say there's a few ways. I would say one is kind of going back to where you said I didn't defend you at that wedding years and years ago. So I've tried to, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've tried to like really defend you if you're telling them they have to do something, they don't want to do it. And I say, hey, you're going to listen to your mom. Like whatever she says, you're just going to say, yes, ma'am, and you're going to do it. And so hopefully that's kind of the way it's going to be whenever they have a wife, right? It's like, as a good loving husband, if your wife wants you to do something, you just need to find a way to get it done.
Yeah.
Whether you feel like it or not. I think that's one way to show love. I'm trying to think what else. I think another one is just I try to be not overly affectionate with you in front of them, but being affectionate because you value hugs and kisses. And so just letting them see that side of our relationship in front of them. And now we do it for fun to gross Brooks out.
Oh
He's
yeah,
getting to
the
that age.
sounds that they make when you give me a kiss or a hug or anything. It's just, I can't wait for the teenage years.
Yeah, but I didn't really see that growing up at all. It's just,
I didn't
it's just
either.
I think just the generation of our parents is just that you just didn't do that. But I think that's important for them to see. That's part of a healthy, loving, marriage. So there's a couple ways.
And how do you feel like you're teaching them to show respect?
To show respect to other men, or
Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, for me, it's just the basics. Like, I think we make them order in restaurants. Making eye contact, speaking up. I think the art of the handshake is a lost thing in this world. So like teaching them a good firm handshake and just, and something I've been fighting with them a little bit, which you're not here in the mornings now a lot, but, and maybe I've been losing this battle, but just the way they look when they walk out the door.
You're definitely losing that battle.
But I'm having the conversation with them though. And so, and we had this whole conversation on the way to school the other day about why it's important to, you need to put your best foot forward every single day when you walk out the door, because whether it's right or wrong, people are looking at you and judging you. And so you have to dress a certain way if you want to get that respect in the world. And so I could see the wheels turning in Brooks's head as he's wearing jumpers and a cutoff shirt to school. But
I still can't believe they haven't sent him home.
yeah, but actually we were talking about, you have the rule that they have to do their hair before they walk out the door. And if you haven't seen our kids, like they have one of them has a mullet, the other one has a
Mohawk.
huge mohawk. And so you want their hair done if they're going to have those crazy hairstyles before they walk out the door. So why do I have to do this, Dad? This doesn't make any sense. Why does Mom have this rule? And so I went back to, you're putting your best foot forward before you walk out the door. You're respecting your mom and her wishes, but you're also signaling to everyone else that you took the time to look good and professional before you walked out the door.
Yeah. If they don't want to style their hair, they don't have to have the haircuts that require a style. I'm happy to give them a burr.
No, I told them they could have the same haircut as me, and I would do it at the house if they wanted to.
They're terrified of having your haircut.
I don't think they're going to have to worry about that.
I hope
Fortunately.
not. We'll see. So, are there any final thoughts for love and respect and things that stand out to you and things that you would want to share to try to help someone else if they're maybe going through the same crazy cycle that we've been through so many times?
There's so many. Trying to summarize 15 years of marriage. First of all, I would say there's hope, because there was lots of times where I honestly felt hopeless. I don't know if you did as well.
Yeah, in the beginning, for sure.
I think you have to decide, and hopefully you decide that are you either going to make it work or you're not going to make it work, And so hopefully if you took the step to get married, that you decide it's worth making it work. And so if you are going to make it work, then whether it's the man or the woman, but somebody has to take that first step. And if you're the man, you have to show your wife love. And you really, again, the hardest thing for me was, when we got married, all I cared about was golf, college football, hanging out with my friends, just goofing around. Like I didn't know what it meant to love someone else. And I think I was almost incapable of loving someone else. I was so selfish looking back. And so you have to really stop and think, is she important or not? Is loving her and making her happy more important than my happiness? And that's a really, really hard step, because you're sticking your neck out there, not knowing if it's ever going to be reciprocated. But I can guarantee you, if you don't take that step, then you really have no chance. So, but I almost guarantee you, any woman, if you show her love and listen, and I think everyone's probably going to be a little bit different, but like figuring out exactly what they need to feel loved. And if you make a consistent effort to do that, it's going to be reciprocated, 100 times over. Because every woman wants to be in love, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you have to give them that experience of feeling in love, even though we're not wired that way at all, not even a little bit. And we just want to be respected. But if she feels love, then you know what? She'll probably listen to you, and she'll probably take your what you want to do into consideration as well.
It's interesting to think about like you stepping forward to kind of like lead us in that direction, because I think biologically women want someone that they can follow. I think it's like a natural progression. I know that even me being a very like independent woman, and I was very much like, I'm never going to have a man to take care of me. And now I'm like, I have one. So that's cool. Like, this is awesome. I don't have to worry. Like, he worries about money all the time and finances and retirement and all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh, I don't have to worry about that stuff because I know he's taking care of it, And I never thought that I would be that, as they say, submissive wife. And I'm still working on that. But the other reality is, as I've become more respectful and I've taken the time to really allow him to lead, he in turn turns back and is like, wait, what do you think about this? How do you feel about this decision? And so the funny thing is, so women always hate whenever you hear the word. And I think that religious people in general get attacked for the word, like being a submissive wife or whatever. But when you're truly in like submitting to your husband, it's because he has shown that you can respect him enough to trust that he's going to lead you in the right direction. And so for me, we've gotten to a place where I trust you wholeheartedly to lead me in the right direction and to lead our family into the right direction. So me being able to trust you allows me to show you respect. And then you in turn turn around and say, how do you feel about this decision? Do you think that this is the right decision for it? Like, so it's when you give them that leadership, they almost in turn kind of turn around and hand it back to you. Like, wait, I love you so much. I want to make sure you're happy. So whereas I would go like 10 years ago, he would try to make a big decision and I would just fight him on it because I just wanted to be heard. And in turn now, when it comes to a big decision, he'll be like, I think this is what we should do. And I'm like, okay, babe, I trust you. Go for it. Sounds good. And he's like, well, don't you want to talk about it?
Well,
How do you feel
I'm
about
still
it?
adjusting to that.
Is that
it
what
still
it
feels
is?
like a trap.
But you genuinely also want to make sure that the decisions that you make me happy too.
No, that's true. And there's been some decisions that I had to make recently that you weren't particularly happy with at the moment, but then because you let me make the decision, I think we agree now that it was the right decision.
Absolutely. You want to bring that up really quick?
Which one?
That's a great example. Which one is it?
Now, what were you thinking of?
Oh, there's two. I didn't even think about the other one, the most recent one. I mean, bring them both up. Go for it.
Well, which two are you talking about?
The boat,
Okay, that would be one.
the neighbor.
Okay. All right. No, we're on the same page. Look at this.
We got this.
Going.
It's going. Okay. Why don't you go with the vote first?
Okay. So with the boat, again, worst financial decision you can ever make. Well, I think we talked about finances before.
You can't put a value on fun and memories with your children and your friends.
Apparently, you can.
I stand
put a
on
value
that
on that
wholeheartedly.
and it's expensive. So we kind of, we have the Airbnb property on the lake, and we had kind of decided the Airbnb is going pretty well, so we could do the boat this year. So me being me, I don't make decisions quickly. I don't make a big decision like that quickly at all. So I've been looking at boats for a year.
He makes these decisions like a snail. Imagine that slow.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to pray to make the right decision, don't you have to give God time to give you the answer?
God doesn't take that long to give me answers.
He does me.
I think I'm a better listener than you.
Oh, so my
Anyways, go
grandma said that if you pray about something every single day for a couple of weeks, then the answer would become very, very clear. So I've always stuck by that.
Okay.
I just upped that to like 6 months. But so on the boat decision, we kind of made the decision to buy a boat, and then we looked online forever, and then we went and found one that would work, and we went and test drove it, and the test drive went very, very badly. And the engine was knocking, and it was just an overall, the boat looked great, ran terrible, and it was only, it was like a year and a half old. And so, Savannah still wanted that boat so bad.
It was so pretty. It was so pretty, and it was perfect.
It was pretty.
It checked all my boxes.
Except for the fact that the engine was already not running properly. And, the worst thing, what happens to every boat is eventually it breaks down. So, I mean, I guess we could just get that out of the way and rebuild the engine from the beginning and add that onto the cost. So after a couple of weeks of debating about that, I just said, I cannot buy a boat that already has problems with the engine, no matter how beautiful it is. And I'm not saying we're not going to buy a boat, but we're just not going to buy that one. And we're going to just start over from scratch. I just don't feel good about it.
So knowing that he wanted to, as he says, start over from scratch, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not getting a boat
Another
for
year.
like 2 more years. Like, this is insane. So I was naturally not devastated, but I was let down and I was kind of sad. And then the kids, when Paul wasn't around, I was like, Mom, please make Daddy buy the boat. And I was like, I can't make Daddy buy a boat. But, you know,
So
eventually.
yeah, so you definitely moped around for a few days.
I
and
didn't mope that bad.
I'm not saying you punished me, but it
I did not
It wasn't
punish
a
you
whole
for
lot
that
of fun to be
decision.
around the house for a couple of days there. But at the end of the day, you respected that decision.
I did.
And then something much, much better came along, a brand new boat for a cheaper price that had all the warranties because it hadn't sold for some reason. There was nothing wrong with it. It had never been driven
Yeah.
before. And so we got a way better boat, way better investment.
I think
for a
that was
better price.
God blessing us for you being obedient and waiting.
Okay, well, there you go. So, but yeah, in the past, that would not have happened like that.
No, in the past, he would have bought the boat I wanted and then been mad at me. And it would have come up like years later in a fight about how I always get everything that I want, even when he doesn't want to do it.
And
That's
every
how
time
that would have
something went
happened.
wrong with the boat, I would have been blaming it on you.
Yes.
And then here we go in the crazy
And
cycle.
so, in my defense, I did say, even whenever I wanted him to buy that boat, I was like, I just don't want to hear about it later. So if you don't want to do this, don't do it. I'll get over it in a couple of days.
And that made the decision very, very easy because you were going to hear about it every time.
But we know each other well enough now to know how not to get in trouble, like in
Yeah.
those situations. So, and then the neighbor, do you want to delve into that or save it for another day?
Well, we can delve into it quickly.
Okay, you
It's a-
tell that
it's
story.
a good story.
Likely.
So with the Airbnb, without going into too much detail, since there's an ongoing criminal investigation now, we had some issues with one of the neighbors vandalizing the house, and it's gotten a little expensive. And the thing is, we knew who it was, but we did not have any hard proof.
Yeah.
And so Savannah's solution, because again, we were 99.9% sure who it was.
We knew.
Savannah's solution would be to go just beat on his front door and handle it the old school way, I guess.
There's nothing wrong with that in some instances.
Except that now that we're adults and you have to know you're going up against someone who's probably fairly intelligent and has the financial means to,
And the
hire an
time.
attorney and go after you. So I had to physically restrain Savannah a couple times from going over there, but we're very patient.
We put up a lot of cameras.
We played chess instead of checkers, and it took a long time. But I got a camera in the right spot that was hidden, and then we got it on video, which we were able to share with the sheriffs. And now the situation is being handled with absolutely no confrontation.
And we're not having to handle it. The sheriff's department is handling it.
Yeah. So, but there was many times I think you thought I was being way too passive.
Yes, I did
But
many times.
In a
Because,
situation like that, you had to set the perfect bait and trap.
and he did, and I
It
give
took
you full credit. It took over a year.
It took
but I give
over
you
a year.
Full credit. Over a year, we were able to send the police 14 videos to prove,
To build our case, and
to
now
build
it's
the
slam
case,
dunk.
and now it's a slam dunk. Correct.
So-
Correct.
so-
And we didn't even have to press charges. The state of Texas is pressing charges.
Yes.
So we were blessed in your patience. I'm still learning patience. I was not born a patient person.
Well, there was many times in that year that I thought maybe you were right, and I was tempted to. But
You
Anyway.
Paul has the patience of a saint, which I think you would have to be married to me. So it's worked out well for us.
agreed.
Anyways, so that really goes to, like I said, the submissive wife goes along with the love and respect. It's really hard to be respectful if you don't trust your husband and don't let him lead. And it's really hard for a man to show you love when they don't feel like you respect them. So remember, women, when you're telling your husband, I don't feel like you love me, he's thinking, you don't respect me, so I'm not going to show you love, whether it's right or wrong. The Love and the Respect book, highly recommend. I recommend it to so many people. And I've had a lot of people that like, I started reading it and it was horrible. And I'm like, well, then you weren't mature enough to read it when you read it.
No, it's, yeah.
Go
just
back
remember
to
the first
it.
half is just absolutely brutal for women to read. And the
Yeah.
second half is equally as brutal for men to read.
Yes. And I'll also recommend listen to the audiobook because it goes a little faster if you do it that way and you don't get as mad.
And I will say this too, for the ladies that are listening. I mean, for years and years, you were all about the love languages book. But again,
Yeah.
the word is just wrong. It's like,
The word is
what's your
wrong.
love language? And I said, in my mind or my subconscious, like, I don't care about
No, so
being loved.
his love language, whenever we did the love languages, it was always, it always came out to like words of affirmation. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you just want me to tell you how awesome you are? That's stupid.
I'm not doing that.
Because for me, if you tell me I'm pretty or you like my hair, like I am so awkward when somebody gives me a compliment. It weirds me out. I'm not good at accepting compliments. I'm going to find a way to turn it on like, oh, I look horrible today, or oh, I didn't do anything, or these shoes are old, or I got them for $5. Like I'm going to turn it around, which I'm trying to work on.
But
so for me,
the words of affirmation basically were just you showing me respect. We just didn't know
yeah, we didn't know.
the correct way to say that.
I knew what I needed to feel loved, and I vocalized that very easily.
Yeah, but I guess my broader point is that I think a lot of people go to that "What's Your Love Language" book, and I think it's normal for women to want their husbands to read a book with them to work on your relationship, and I think it's all good and healthy.
Yeah.
But again, I think a lot of those books, for a man, it's hard to just get into it because again, it's all about love and this and that. And it's like, no, I want to be respected, and this is the only book I've ever seen that just spelled it out. And again, sorry, ladies, the first half of the book, you're going to feel like you're just getting brutally attacked.
Well, and I'll also add something that really kind of like drove this home for me. Around the time that I listened to that book, I was actually reading a book called Leaders Eat Last. And there was a story about, I think it's like the Navy SEALs, I want to say. I mean, I read it years ago. And it's talking about how men will die for men that they respect. Like in the military, they will die for men that they respect. And it's like, whoa, hold on. But would my husband lay his life down for me? Does he love me? And women want to know that, like, if someone's coming and you're going to die, they're going to take care of you. Like, think of the men on the Titanic. They were left and the women were, they sacrificed their lives so the women could get on the safety boats or whatever. So men will do that if they love you, but they're not going to love you like that and lay down their life for you unless they feel respected. And that's why military men are willing to do that for their colleagues and the people on the front lines next to them because they have so much respect for them. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of like, that kind of stood out to me too. Anyways, but practice the love and respect. Go listen to the book. Let us know what you think. And we're open to topic suggestions. If you have suggestions, drop them in the comments on whatever form you're listening to this. And do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I would just say stay off of the crazy cycle.
Yeah, or I call it the crazy train. Every time I hear that, I think of that Ozzy Osbourne song.
Yeah. But
That's what I think of.
So just, but if the sooner you can start to recognize that you're going on that, then you can get off
Yeah.
the cycle.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next time, stay salty.
Thanks for listening to the Salty Life podcast. We appreciate you choosing to spend some time with us.
If you like what you've heard today, please like and share on your favorite social media.
And don't forget to click the subscribe button to hear new episodes of the Salty Life podcast.
Until next time, stay
Stay salty.
salty.